Hello, lovelies. Welcome again to health class with me and Mordu. I cannot do a video outside without her finding me. It's just how it is. So she's going to be a huge part of this, I think. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about porn and how it influences how many people see sex and everything that there is that surrounds sex, even approaching women, or even guys approaching guys, girls approaching girls, whichever. Yeah. So one of the things that I want to touch on today, porn is not inherently bad. It is not a bad thing. Sex is normal. I mean, the fact that they've made it entertainment is whatever it is. You know, if you've watched it, cool. If you haven't, also cool, whatever. It's knowing the difference between the reality of what sex is and what's not the reality. And within porn, it plays majorly on their fantasies, like very intense fantasies, or things of that nature. And a lot of porn stars too, they've been doing this for so long, or a 10-minute clip could have taken like hours and hours for somebody to film. So it has a tendency to be more aggressive because nothing is experiencing any feeling down there anymore. So, and then they go from just what we would classify as normal sex to multiple partners at once, all of these extravagant scenes, all of that good stuff, just in order for a person to even get off in those senses. So it's extreme. And a lot of people, it seems like their first experience with anything remotely sexual or sex education or things of that nature is with porn. So in their mind, they think this is normal, or that's their first interaction with seeing this kind of stuff. So they think it's a normal process, which it isn't. There are things that can be taken from porn that might be helpful in your love life, but to assume that's what it's always like is kind of what the issue is. And to teach people from a very young age, because it's so accessible. Like, I remember when I was a kid, people would have to go to like video stores and have to rent it, and you had to be 18, and if you're gonna buy the magazines, you had to be over a certain age. Like, there's a whole process. And now you can it's free on your phone, so you can access it anywhere. And because it's so easily accessible, I think there needs to be more conversation about it, especially it's like young people in school. Tell them, or even your kids or your nieces and nephews, things like that. Like, this isn't real. It's kind of like how people assume, say, like soap operas and stuff like that their characters are real, or that the Avengers are real, things like that. People cannot conceptualize that is entertainment, right? And the same goes for porn. Like, I see some of what they do in there. There's no way I am doing any of that. So if somebody expects that, it's not happening. And even if you do want to do certain things in there, maybe you want to do them once in a while. Maybe that's like an anniversary thing. Maybe that's like a birthday thing. But to expect that people are completely hairless and ready to go at any point, at any time, it's not realistic. Like, unless you're with somebody and both of you are on the same page with that, like you're expecting to be video ready at any point, that's one thing. But to set that standard up for the rest of the people it's a little much. And I think I noticed it the most, just how even people talk to women or how they treat them on those videos as well. They're kind of just like it's just like a sex toy. Like, it's just there for visual effects. It's just like they're treating them as if they're an object or a sex toy, which again can be really lovely, but not all the time. And that doesn't have to be the constant thought, right? So creating that bit of awareness for people just starting to get into sexual relationships, or, you know, puberty, or finding what works for them, whatever. I mean, you don't have to be a young person to be learning about this for the first time. Like, I worked with many guys. Like, I used to work up in northern Alberta in oil field camps, things like that, and how they interacted with the women around them, I was like, the only time I've ever seen this is, well, in places that aren't very good to women, but also in porn. And, you know, it got me to thinking, I'm like, maybe that's what the problem is. Like, maybe because they're up working all the time, the only real interaction that they've ever had with women or guys is in porn. So how they go about talking to people, how they go about thinking that they're, you know, gonna get laid, certain things like that, you're like, where did you learn this? How did you learn to talk to people like that? And the only place I can really think of is either their friends, which is kind of like the blind leading the blind, unless they're, whoever, love gurus, things like that. I was like, the only other place I can think of is porn. And, you know, because it worked for one person, one guy, one girl, they think that it works for everybody, and that's just not realistic either. So to teach people that that's not really how things work, like I said, you can watch porn, you can have a very healthy relationship with it, and you can use it as a tool, and it can help you shut your mind off, which is one thing that we're going to talk about in the fantasies section. I'll talk about that more in the fantasy section, because it's going to take a whole episode to deal with that. But kind of the key takeaway with this is that, you know, it's awkward, I get it, but the more young people know at a sooner age, like, they may not understand it, it's not going to ruin their childhood or anything like that. It actually prepares them for life, and they're not blindsided by it, because some people don't think that they're doing anything wrong, and then somebody calls them on it or says, like, that's not okay, where are you learning to do that? And then they're shocked, like, never in my life have I heard anybody say that. So we're trying to prepare our young people and everybody for life. Like, this is the whole point. We've been kept under a rock for a lot of things, and many of us have tried to find it or figure it out for ourselves. And while it's fun or a disaster, like, there should have been avenues for us to learn about this beforehand. So yeah, the key takeaway is being able to differentiate porn as entertainment. This is not necessarily reality. If you and your partner want to play out porn scenes, go for it, but it must be consensual as well. You need to talk about it. Surprise pokes anywhere is not okay. It's like, that may work in porn, but it does not work in real life. That's probably how you get throat punched. But again, it has to be a conversation. Like, you have to be like, I want to do this. Like, this, you know, makes sense to me. But to expect that kind of performance all the time, or for your partner to constantly be ready for it, constantly be clean shaven, like a hairless cat, all of these things, it's not realistic. And if those are your expectations going into a relationship, make that known, because maybe you will find the partner that's like that. So again, porn is not real life. Not everybody is going to perform like that all the time. Not everyone's going to react to certain things like in porn all the time. It can have a tendency to be extremely awkward, because that's what, in those scenes, it takes them to get to that point, because they've probably been at it for a couple hours. So just lead with a critical brain. Something a little lacking in a lot of society nowadays, but lead with a critical brain. Have a healthy relationship with it. Like I said, it is not a bad thing if you use it appropriately, but to expect that as a reality isn't. So I hope that has helped somebody. Is one thing I felt it needed to be talked about, especially with the experiences that I have had with it. I'm sure other people have too. Like, it is, yeah. Consent and intention is a huge thing with it. It's not always going to be like what's in porn. And the sooner you accept that, but better.